Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Michi Makes Up. I have Prada's newly launched spring eyeshadow collection to review for you guys today. I got these 2 weeks ago, but didn't sit down and do a first impressions right away because I did want to spend some time and try the eyeshadows out. When Prada first launched their makeup line, I did not pick up any of the eyeshadows, so this is truly my first time trying any of their beauty products. What I have here are 3 eyeshadow quads, and this is in the color story Pansy. This is Peony, and I'm going to hold the 2 kind of deepest color stories together side by side for comparison. And this is Primula, or also known as Primrose. And these are all refillable compacts, meaning you could, once you're finished with one, pop it out and then put in another one, a refill, or actually another color story if you would like. I did buy them kind of as is, that comes with the compact. Peony has the lightest color story of the 3. When I look at these shades, I think of bridal colors, bridal shades, for those with fair to light skin. This also really reminds me of an eyeshadow palette that Kogan Do launched as a limited edition a couple years ago. I will have a comparison of the 2 at the end. You can also skip to it now if you'd like, using timestamps that I've added below. So what I'm going to do, because we've got 3 here, I will first do a makeup look with Peony, swatch the shades so you guys can get a feel on my skin, and then I'm going to remove it and put the other 2 on. Because this is the lightest, this is going to be the easiest to remove without much staining, if at all actually. So I'm going to go with this first. But a word on the packaging. This is my first time trying their eyeshadows, seeing the compacts, touching them in person, so I did want to have a word on packaging. Those who love luxury beauty, we know the prices are what they are because of the name, the packaging, the marketing, as well as the product. So it's worth it to spend a minute on packaging. The compacts do come in this, very recyclable kind of cardboard compact here. And this compact itself really reminds me of the YSL eyeshadow compacts. I don't actually have anymore. I decluttered mine some time ago, but the kind of material, the look and feel, especially this bottom part here that sounds more hollow, it's lighter, the material's thinner. It really reminds me of YSL. So I can't help but compare my experience with these eyeshadows with my YSL eyeshadow that I no longer have. The one that I have was from their Sound Illusion line of eyeshadows. I think the color story was called Opium, and it's nothing like any of these. It's like a smoky, cool, blue, black color story, but certainly the packaging does. And to be honest, I think the packaging is quite light and a bit underwhelming for a luxury brand such as Prada. I'll talk more about it at the end when we do some comparisons, but I think it's kind of light. So let's get into some swatching here. This is how they look at the end of my fingertips, and this is what they look like on my wrist. This imprint here is from my watch. You can see that this is indeed very, very light. I can tell you right now, this palette is for those with fair skin or people who just really enjoy a very light, delicate wash of color, of pigment. I'm going to jump right into the eyeshadow or the eye demo, because it's not going to really show up on me either. And I have light to medium skin, more on the light side because we're at the beginning of spring, still kind of the end of winter because I haven't been outside very much. So I consider myself like still kind of end of winter skin tone. I'll probably go up 2 shades over the course of summertime, and you will see that it just, and I dabbed it into this shade here. I consider it a base shade. The base shade, no issues if it doesn't really show up on me because it's more about smoothing over the lid texture a little bit, giving it a more uniform color to layer on the other shadows on top of it. So we've done that. Now I'm going to go into this shade here and kind of place it generously all over the lid. So that's with one application. Going with a second. And then I'm going to take the deepest shade and put that on the outer corner. It's just a very classic way of putting on eyeshadows, especially when I'm trying to demo all of the shades in a palette. And then with this pink here, I'm just going to use my finger. And you can see it is iridescent, and I'm putting that onto the center of the lid. You can of course use, you can probably use 2 of the shades here to create some kind of look and have dimension to it. You don't have to use all 4 of the shadows. I'm gonna blend out the outer corner. And you can see, when I say it doesn't show up on my skin, that's not totally true. You can still see that I have eyeshadow on, obviously compared to this side that has nothing. It's just very light. And I did go in and apply 2 layers for each of the shades, except for the pink one. I guess I could go in once more. And it's not the effect that I was hoping to have. I was hoping to have just like slightly more impact or slightly more ethereal kind of look. I suppose if I'm going for ethereal, I could just pick really go into this iridescent shade here and kind of play around or do a little bit of a mix. But these are probably, I think true to my first instinct, my first impression of them is these are bridal colors. It's just very light. They're suitable for people with fair to light, like very light skin tones. So that is Peony. And then I'm going to get into what I consider the funner, more fun shades, color stories. Let's go into this one here because it's probably in between Peony and Primula. This one has a lot more pigment, and the shade here that has pop does have sparkly bits in it. So it's not just iridescent, it's like a duochrome with sparkly texture to it. So these are the 4 shades from Pansy, and I'm gonna put this demo it on my lid. Taking this shade here and placing that all over the lid. Already, I like this more. You get a bit more pigment. I feel like this is already half, if not more, of what this looks like on, what Peony looks like on the right side. I'm taking the deepest shade here and I'm putting that on the outer corner. Then I'm taking this deeper shade here and just placing it above the lash line. And then I'm going to blend out the outer corner into the lid. And then with the finger, I'm going to go into this shade here and just put it in the center towards the inner lid. Go back for a second application. Just going to smooth this out a little bit here. There's some texture. And that's not from my lid, that's just because of how much I applied. It looks like there's some texture there. And I do want more of this shade to be in the inner corner here. So I'm just gonna add that back and just lightly blend into the middle of the lid. So you can see both sides, the difference. This is actually the first time I tried Pansy. I tried the other 2 color stories before I sat down for this video over the last 10 days or so. But this is the first time I tried Pansy. I like Pansy a lot more compared to Peony. And some of the shades that we see, like this, you know, this pink here, this little deeper shade that has maybe more brown or red. It's just, you can do more with it. You can see it more in my skin tone. So that is my preference. I'm gonna go take Peony off on this side so we can get into the last color story. For the last color story, we have Primula, and let's get into swatches. The shadows feel very buttery to the touch. They also blend very well. The compacts, or the color stories that have the dual chrome and sparkly bits, they don't feel so buttery, but that's kind of, you know, to be expected here. This color story also reminds me of another eyeshadow palette from a different brand that I have, and it's just, the idea is very similar. So we're gonna do a comparison of this one also at the end. And you might have guessed it already, this is probably my favorite of the three, and you'll see why in a moment. It's the deepest, and when it comes to the swatches, obviously with the pigment, it shows up the most, and I think they just feel smoother. Sometimes deeper shadows, because they have more pigment, they just kind of glide across a little bit better. You can see more of it, but they just feel a little bit smoother. And that's really the main difference, I would say, other than the color story, between this here, Primula, versus Peony and Pansy. So I'm gonna get right to the demo here on my right side. I'm taking the lightest shade here and just placing that on the lid. It is going to be used as a base shade, but I'm not going to go as high up as I did with the other two because this is deeper. And then I'm taking the deepest shade here, putting it on the outer corner. And then taking the center shade, putting it from the inner lid to the center, and just lightly blending it upwards, outwards. And then this shade here, I'm going to, not going to place it on the center of the lid, but just on top of the lash line throughout the entire length of the eye. And I do want it to be blended out better, so I'm gonna go back to this shade and I'm gonna blend up and out. And that is how it looks on the eye. These are very quick demos. If I were just wearing this to go out, I'd probably do something under the eye. So actually, let's just go back to this shade and putting that on the lower lash line. And I'd probably just finish with some eyeshadow. This is indeed my favorite of the three because it is, while it is the most pigmented, it doesn't give you the smokiest or deepest look. And I just find that even though it is most pigmented, there's some versatility with it. Whereas you have the lightest here, even if you build up 3-4 applications, you're still gonna stay within this realm of very light payoff, just given that these are very light shades, they don't show up that well on my skin tone. So I'm gonna jump into some comparisons and then I'll give you my final thoughts at the end. Before I get into comparisons, if you enjoy luxury beauty, luxury handbag content, subscribe to this channel, give this video a like, and ring the bell to get notified anytime new content is released. 80% of people who come to my channel are not subscribed, and I would really appreciate if you can. It helps out my channel. So about the comparisons, this is the Kogendo eyeshadow palette that I mentioned earlier in the video. You can basically get this eyeshadow look minus the duochrome here, plus what I had on for Peony. You can get that from this eyeshadow palette, and I'll show you. So with Peony, I think we can spot almost all of the shades on this palette or a very, very similar alternative. And then for Pansy, again, ignoring this duochrome here, these 3 shades, you can pick an alternative on here that will closely resemble what you can get here. Specifically, I'm looking at these two pinks, and then for that deeper brownish shade, I can pick this or this here. I can warm it up by mixing it, or I can take even this shade, deepen it to get something that I place on the outer corner. So because I've seen these color stories before, and I think this eyeshadow palette is actually really gorgeous. It's a mineral eyeshadow palette, so the formulation is going to be different, but this is really gorgeous. It really gives you an ethereal wash of color. It is light, but it just has the right kind of glimmer, and the pairings that you can get between this like warm pink with some of the cooler shades on here, I think it's just a beautiful contrast. So I'm a big fan of this. It's also one of the reasons why I haven't decluttered it, and I'm glad because now we can talk about it with these two Prada quads. Well, let's get into my last comparison. This is for Primula. This is also my favorite from the collection, as you guys know. It's actually very similar to Tom Ford's Smoky Quartz. This is these shadows are all matte. They're very, very creamy, just like these shadows here. And you can see, while it's not one-to-one, there's definitely these two shades here that you feel like very much resembles the idea behind this color story, because these shades just, they go well together. They contrast each other, and then they also complement it depending on your placement. So while these are not exactly the same, I think there's more of a difference than the Couture palette and the other two. These are kind of color stories that have been matched and combined and launched through other brands. So those are my comparisons here. I will actually, just before we go, do a quick swatch of these two shades from Couture. That way we can see, actually, I will swatch this one here too. That way we can see just how similar it can be. This is from Pansy. These two are from Peony, just so light. And you can see the Couture shades are just more pigmented. I think it's the superior palette than the Prada eyeshadow quads, to be honest. And so my overall thoughts on these, I think when they first launched their eyeshadows, Prada that is, they had that pop of color. It was a really great choice on their part because there's enough interest. I think the eyeshadow quality is good. These are creamy, they go on well, they blend easily, they diffuse easily. So yes, this is what we expect from luxury brand. The quality is there. In terms of the color story, these spring nude quads, I don't think they have really anything that interesting about them. If you're a fan of the brand or just these compacts in general, I think they check the box, right? They released neutral color stories that people who didn't like those, you know, that emerald green or the purple puff color, part of that original release, can now try these neutral shades. But out of a sea of eyeshadow palettes from our luxury brands, these don't really stand out to me. And after using them, I can, you know, confidently confirm that. Probably a bit of an exception is going to be this one here, because I do like how it shows on my skin and the quality is there. And then when I look at this compared to my old YSL eyeshadow palette, I do think these eyeshadows are better quality, but the overall experience isn't that much elevated than from YSL. I actually think YSL as a makeup brand is a bit underrated, and it's super popular in Asia, not so much here in North America. So it's interesting. I think if you were to go for that luxury eyeshadow experience, color story, quality, my pick is Tom Ford over Prada, unless there's a color story from Prada you really, really like, you're very interested and drawn to, then of course you might not be able to find exactly the same from another brand. So those are my thoughts on the Prada eyeshadows. I think these are a pass in general, unless you, again, fan of the brand, or there's just a color story that really speaks to you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.